back to the Chappie and Bengals podcast presented by Play Action Sports. Thanks for tuning in again, guys. We got week 15. We're talking NFL again today. Chappie, how you doing, man? How's the week for you?
Week was good, man. Cooking up some nasty parlays over here.
We had a couple going.
I know
we're getting
you
a
did
system
too.
going here.
We do have a system, so
Starting to
love
come
to
through.
see it. We'll let's build on that. But definitely a bankroll builder for sure.
Absolutely. It was an eventful week again. Some ups, some downs. I think it's only fair to kind of start off with a recap. Last video we put out our picks. We're going to try and keep ourselves accountable here and just see how we fared on this week's slate of games. So to start off, just kind of our head-to-head here with our picks. Chappie went 10 for 13. I went 8 for 13. Couldn't get a couple on that home stretch there to come through. But the games that Chappie, you ended up missing was you took the Dolphins over the Texans. We both got the Panthers wrong against the Cowboys. And then you also took the Patriots against the Cardinals. I ended up whiffing on the Titans game there. I mean, the Bengals did play a bad game. That was expected, but they ended up coming through. We'll touch on the frustrations of Mr. Joe Burrow on the sideline there as we get into it. But I also whiffed on the Lions. Your Bills came through. Big win for them. Can't wait to get into that because we got the smoke in the comments coming from me at the Joe Burrow and the Josh Allen take. So everything is welcome, guys. This is what I'm here for. I want all the smoke when it comes to this stuff. So keep it going. And then I whiffed on the Chargers and the Seahawks at the end there. Seahawks lost Geno Smith at the end. But safe to say Chappie came out on top. And then some of our picks there, we had the head-to-head with the Eagles and the Steelers.
Yep.
Can safely say I took that one there.
You took that
Steelers, it was close for a little while, but Eagles were just a little too much to pull away from the Steelers.
A little too much offense.
That's it.
Yeah, one thing though, like on that, like I get the confidence. You got to have confidence. You're a professional athlete. You got to have confidence. You lose your confidence, you lose everything. But for Jalen Hurts to walk up to that podium and be like, "Is that what you guys wanted?" Like, bro, it was one showing of passing as like a focus. Do it again next week. Do it the week after that, heading into this shit. And I think you can go to the podium and act like you're the king shit here when it comes to the passing game. But you didn't throw for 400 fucking yards. You threw for like what? I think it was like 260 maybe. And it was the first time that you passed like 30 passing attempts in a fucking game all season long. Like ridiculous.
And that's
I was
partly because Saquon got like injured too. He's a little banged up and then they were forced to pass. But that's what they wanted to see. I just thought
that was so fucking funny. I was like, like, I get that this was a call out and that's his ass. Would you want to see? What are you fucking like Maximus Aurelius fucking? Are you not entertained? Like, what the fuck, man?
You know, he wanted to come out and say that. There was so much speculation.
He was jacked up about it.
And to be fair, like, this is what we do. We overanalyze this crap, and it's so fun to just pull narratives from these things when realistically, like in the locker room, they could give two fucks how they win the game. Yeah. Like, sure, it's frustrating from like AJ Brown's standpoint, but like, come on. Like, that's what we're here to do. We're going to blow shit out of proportion. And that's just funny the way he came out and said that. But let's get into some of these main headlines. So we talked last week, that Thursday night game between the 49ers and the Rams. Devondre Campbell, he is getting a suspension. So it turns out the team actually didn't want him to get released because of the fact that a team could have picked him up. They didn't want the positive to come from that. So they actually went out of their way to make sure that the suspension got done so that he could sit his ass down for the rest of the season, which, good on them for doing that because respectfully, man, it's a bold fucking move.
At what point does petty become petty? Like, at what point? I think I love that. Like, if it's like, yo, this guy's being a piece of shit, fuck this guy. We're going to do it right back.
I love it. They went out of their way to make it even more complicated for this guy. And rightfully so with what he fucking displayed. Like, that's some sad shit. So,
well, you know what I heard too is that it was actually Kyle Shanahan who told him to go to the locker. It was just like, you're not going to be here. You're not going to be on the sideline. Get the fuck to Like he didn't walk off, so to speak. A lot of the
Yeah.
rumor mill right now is that no, Shanahan was like, "You're not going to stay on this sideline if you're not going to play. You can
Yeah.
get the fuck in the locker room," and
Well, I
kind of
like that
dismissed
too.
him, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is the right call there too.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
I would
it's
agree with that.
definitely a wild story as it continues to kind of grow and more details are learned. But yeah, what a wild situation.
It is
I'm
wild.
glad they just shut it down. It's you can't have that on your team. You certainly can't have that in the NFL. Sets precedent for other bullshit. So
Oh yeah, 100%. And I don't want to be the one to speculate with only like one side of the story.
yeah,
But at the same time, the way the players reacted to that speaks volumes to what went down. I don't think you need to speculate beyond that.
yeah.
But even
Bosa's
so, you're not going to
comments
go
too.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like that when your
he's like,
team
yeah,
is
I was
saying shit
aware
like
of some
that.
stuff, but didn't think it was gonna blow up like that. So
Yeah. It is what it is, but that's wraps on him. Be interesting to see what happens to his career.
Yeah, let's
after
keep
that
an eye.
stage.
Make a Google alert and check on fucking where this guy goes.
Yeah,
I think it would be
seriously.
great. Yeah.
But we got some more stuff. We got Dan Campbell coaching talk to get into here. I think next up, I wanted to kind of touch on this. Has been frustrating the hell out of me, but so Commanders Saints in this game was actually closer than we thought. They ended up getting a touchdown, and then they went for two. The Saints did at the end of the game there. But a lot of controversy over the officiating and the stoppage of the clock with 9 seconds left that ended up putting 4 extra seconds on the clock there and allowed them to spike it and go for it there at the end of the game. What did you think of that? Did you see the controversy in the video leading up to that stuff?
No.
It was pretty brutal, and you could see there was a stop there, and there was actually some notes that came out. I think it was Sean Hockley's staff, and they basically said, like, yeah, there was an errant clock stoppage, and at that point in time, there's nothing you can do to correct it, and you go from there. But I bring this up because I'm constantly looking at the state of officiating in this league, and the Bengals Titans game. I'm sure if you're in the Bengals Twitter and all that stuff, you could see everybody else was a little upset at how poor the officiating was in that game. That was one of the poorest officiated games I've seen. And it just seems like every year the product is, if not the same, also getting worse in aspects as well. Seems to continue to be like they just can never figure it out. And they just have control over such big moments and things like that. It's a little bit frustrating.
So what would you like to see out of it is the next question, right? Like, what would be the game like where at the end of the day, if it's progressively getting worse, do you want less control in those moments and let it just be? Or would you want the call to get right and for it to actually improve? I think the biggest topic that probably Play Action Nation and everyone else in this world, right, is looking for is like, it's the same situation in the MLB with what they've done with the video calls and kind of making sure that the play is right regardless of the situation, right? And like a lot of these other, big moments otherwise would never have gone to a video review and would have stand the tail of time here, and you would have been like, oh, what if now you have the what if scenarios locked up. Well, what's the best case of this? For it to get better, for someone to have a audit on these guys to be like, can't fucking do that. Like, I don't know what systems they have in play. That's the curiosity to me.
Well, the sad thing is this is a multi-billion-dollar business, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And this is the product you have from an officiating standpoint. Like that's what I don't understand. To me, like it's one thing if this is like a high school football game or something like that. Officials are going to be trash. Like, it is what it is. But this is a product that is watched from thousands of different angles with the cameras that we have nowadays. And the way it is handled, to me, is pretty crazy. And I think you can start alone with the amount of face mask calls that have been missed in plain sight this year. And the fact that a penalty like that, I think when we get into this topic of how do we fix this, it's like, number one, there is no gray area to a face mask penalty, correct? Therefore, something like that with no gray area, no judgment call, it's plain and simple, should absolutely be reviewed.
Yeah, you know what I think is
especially if
funny?
It's under 2 minutes.
What I think is funny is when they have in the broadcast the official review reviewer.
Oh my God.
So they actually, what do you think of this? And they go to a former ref, or they go to a former person, and it's like
Dean Blandino, rules official. Like, tell us what you thought.
Yeah, what do you need in that moment if not to say fucking really loud that you realize that your fucking league is out of control when it comes to the officiating?
Legit,
Like, if you have to then review the call that's being reviewed, at the end of the day, does that mean that it's inherently wrong more than it's not? Like, like that's a problem. The fact that you have someone to lean on in your booth to be like, yeah, well, actually, I don't agree with this one, Paul. Like, like what the fuck is that?
And you got to explain it and
you got to explain it. Yeah, no, I don't think that's right. Like, and now it just creates fodder for everyone, for you, for me, to be like, what the fuck? Because it's wrong. Like, so how do you get it right?
And I don't want to be the one that just sits here and, like, we've all seen it. We all know that the product on the field is suspect when it comes to the officials. I mean, you don't make memes about the Chiefs getting every call for no fucking reason. There's merit to that. There. We're not just fabricating these narratives, right? Like, it is there. It is in plain sight. And it's like, okay, when are we going to do something about this? And you might not say, depending on what team you're a fan of, you won't care enough until it happens to your team in the biggest moments of the game. And that's the biggest thing. Like, I get it. We can sit here and talk about it, but wait until it happens to you in a game where there's no next day to show up for. Like,
you're only nose blind and don't smell the shit until it happens right in your face. Like,
exactly. Until you're on the other end of that Chiefs call, only then will you know what that feels like. But we're seeing shit like this, and I just want things to get it right. And we talked about the face mask stuff, simple things we can do to fix that. I think everything should be reviewed under 2 minutes, especially from that perspective. And I've seen plenty of hands to the face calls. Like, Joe Burrow's getting smacked every week. This week too, another missed one, hands to the face, like blatant face, just ripped his head off. No call on a third down. And it's every week I'm seeing this, and it's like, okay, we got to do something about it. And then when you get into this is my perspective when it comes to pass interference calls.
Mm-hmm.
So we already talked about the fact that if this is the way the league is going, why in the world aren't people just taking X amount of deep shots every single game?
Every time.
Because of the fact that if somebody just gets a little bit handsy and that ref feels trigger happy, like, you're going to get a call go your way, right? Mm-hmm. So just throw it up there, see what you get. Mm-hmm. I think based on what a pass interference call can do and how it's being officiated right now, I think this needs to be changed to a 15-yard penalty like the collegiate rule. I think because of the fact that this call is getting butchered so many more times than none, and it can change the landscape of a game. It's a massive
change of a game.
It's huge.
Big arm will automatically change the game.
Like, if you're throwing and taking a 50-yard shot,
that's a
50-yard swing.
Last night, we're watching that Atlanta game, right? And I'm going to myself, I'm like, this guy doesn't have the fucking arm to do this. He's never going to be able to make this happen. So it's like, add the arm and the situation, and take your shot, right? Yeah. But don't have that arm. That guy's shit out of luck to make that play happen, because nothing's, and even still, I don't think he got it pass interference. But like, if that were to be the case, like, you're moving the chains fucking huge. Yeah. And if you have the arm to go there, and even if it doesn't matter, like, I'm as a defender and I'm like, yo, if you catch this ball, sick. But if you don't, just get roughed up a little bit in the moment, and let's see it with fucking flag goes.
Swings the field.
Like, it's the same shit as what happens in everyone, like, fucking soccer, where guys are taking dives left, right, and center. Well, that's what you're now forcing people to fucking do in this position. Because now it's like, like the jokes right now, and like Josh Allen taking like fucking
he's got unnecessary some nice roughness.
Flops. He's got some nice wicked flops. Right? He's
good at that.
He's fantastic. But like, that's where you would say, like, it's the same situation for pass interference. Are receivers going to just start learning how to flop in that same spot and going to get a call their way? And it's going to run, right? Like, we probably haven't counted those this season, but if we did, I guarantee you it's moved a lot of fucking needles in the right direction for a lot of teams going towards a win.
Yeah, I agree. So like, let's take the onus off the refs here, and let's make this a 15-yard penalty. That way we can save some of the integrity from this game. because it's just getting butchered with some of the calls. In the Bengals game, I saw one of the worst pass interference calls ever. I don't even think the guy barely even made contact with him, and you just see the ref like, I'm just, it's a deep shot. I'm just going to throw the flag here. Fuck it.
Yep.
And it's at the goal line, and you're like, what the fuck is that? Like, they shouldn't have that much control over dictating the outcome of a game.
Yeah.
And if that's a big game, something like that is a huge swing, man. Like, third down, big play like that. I think that's a topic of conversation moving forward is fixing that, because that would just help keep the game in check a little bit more. And
it would otherwise change, like, especially moving like the offense that much closer, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, at least then it would change completely that final drive, like in a lot of cases, because now you can't take that. And if you get it, sure, you can maybe incrementally go 15, 15, 15, 15, 15 and make your way up the field. But it relies so much more on the talent of the team rather than the call to make that play.
Yeah, completely.
Agreed. For sure.
I think one more thing to touch on with that is, like, you look at the flags that are being called, they're literally, when they underthrow the football, we're giving this as a win to the offense because the quarterback underthrows the football. And then the receiver has to come back to the ball, and he runs into the DB, and we're calling that pass interference. How are we rewarding the offense for an underthrown ball on a route? Like, that kind of stuff, to me, it really blows my mind. Like, what are you supposed to do as a defensive back in these situations? And they talk about getting the head around. Like, dude, that's not part of the rule. You don't have to get your head around. But they've created this stir where it's like, what? Since when is this a thing?
Yeah, there's definitely, like, I do like the concepts about even the running backs and these, like, the quarterbacks taking a run, right? Like the slides, the design slides, and all these plays that are fucking benefiting the offense. At some point in time, you do have to balance that defensive measure too, right? And right now, it's like every call that's currently played, right? It's so heavily slated towards the offensive team benefiting in those moments that you're right. Like, DBs, all these guys can't fucking make them play. And if they do, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Yeah,
so it's like,
either way.
Well, what do you have to do to make that call, right? And some of that is just changing the way that some of these rules and plays get called and how they go. That's simple definition change, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is when you make such a simple definition change, is all the players have grown up playing one way, and then it completely fucks things up. You can't say that it hasn't happened in hockey. Hockey's a completely different game.
Sport. Yeah,
from contact in the 2000s to where it is today. It's a completely different sport based on the hitting rules that they implemented. So,
I think they need to, spend a little bit of time getting in and fixing this product here and eliminating this gray area of not even understanding what calls are anymore, because I think it's just ruining the game. And we sit here and we talk about this, and I promise you, down the line here, some of this shit's going to happen, just like we've seen over the past couple of years, where flag's going to go and it's going to ruin the outcome of a game, and it's probably not going to be justified, right? Like, I'm all for the justified ones. As long as you get the call right, I don't care. It's the ones where it's like, wow, like you're really turning the game off of that stuff. That's what pisses me off. But
fair.
Tough to see. And then we can go from that into talking about Tua here, and we had the Dolphins receiver Grant DuBose, who's carted off in the Dolphins game. Funny enough, all the memes and stuff on Twitter about Tua throwing a hospital ball. We've heard about Derek Carr throwing Olave the hospital ball. Now you got Tua, which, I mean, rightfully so. And this is where, the onus is on the quarterback. We've heard Tom Brady talk about this, like, don't throw your guy into coverage like that. That should be on them. And we shouldn't be disciplining the defense for something that was an offensive problem. And scary moment there. That was, did you end up seeing that?
Hot Twitter announcement here. If it hasn't seen it yet, Michael Penix Jr. just was named the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh man, we love that. There we go. Just got the update. We're going to touch on that. And funny enough, pulling my hair out yesterday watching that game, and we were all over that Falcons, like 4 points earlier in the week. What the fuck is that?
Yeah. I
think we know why that line was what it was.
Where it was. Yeah.
Yes.
Still win it. But yeah, still. that was Kirk is just not playing, man. It's
no, he is not.
And that's an interesting call to make post win for sure.
It is.
But the result did show, right? Like
it did, and we're going to touch on that game at the end here. But when we're talking about like
talk about bad passing right now.
Yeah, but seriously, bad passing. Great segue there.
Yeah,
but that was a scary scene, man. I mean, I was at the DeMar Hamlin game. I know how long that took. This was kind of like similar scenario. Kept going commercial, coming back. Mm-hmm. I believe like that. I think that guy was just pulled off the practice squad. He was just starting for these guys, and that might have been his first target of the game. And to have that happen, like they ripped his uniform off, they stretched him off. I mean, the only thing that they didn't do was pull the ambulance on the field, which was a scary scene. But that was tough to watch, man. That Dolphins team been going through it, eh?
They've been going through it. Yeah, the other side to this is just like, I don't know. You put that on the quarterback in some cases. Like any player, right? Like, playing hockey, playing defense, you don't ever give a forward a suey pass, right? And that's the situation that we're in today. Exactly. And that's the same thing here. It's a suey pass, right? Like, and a suey pass is a suicide pass if you don't know what that slang means. But like you're sending a guy out there to fucking get crunched, right? And that's and they're blind to it. So no, that's a scary situation. It's I want to say it's definitely on the quarterback to make that read. But I will say it's, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, you put that situation in there. Defender also needs to be a little bit self-aware to how fucking much he's going to absolutely destroy someone too.
Well, that's the thing. Like, how do
you break it? How do you stop it? We just talked about defense getting the, some benefort of the doubt here.
The stick.
Right. So it's a tough scene. I if you're tight in a situation like that, you're going to lay the hit. So,
that was tough. He is in stable. Yeah. He's good. Hospital, all that stuff. But yeah, that was tough to watch for sure. We hate to see that, man, because we love the sport so much.
Yeah.
But aside from that, man, when I look at the Dolphins offense here, Tyreek's struggling a little bit this year. Jonnu Smith has been great for them. Achane's been great. Miami as a whole, even with Tua back, like they kind of are what they are. My question to you is it time to fire Mike McDaniels? And should he be on the way out?
This team is completely built in one system. We have mentioned this before. It runs through the combinations of what Tua can do on the pass, as well as what their situation was last year, which was much better from a run game perspective. Yeah. They had Mostert that was playing at a great level, and the chain was kind of that balancing act with him. And when you had those options and those wheels and those different situations out of the backfield with Tyreek and Waddle, and they could play these like odd and end schemes where they got guys in motion, that definitely helped build the team's offense to be what it was. Now, remove that, have Tyreek lose a step a little bit here, have Mostert not playing at the same level because he's older now, and it's just kind of fading into that, football obscurity in terms of, career. What are you going to do next? And it's a good question to ask, is Mike Daniel the guy to come up with the next system that is going to benefit whatever direction they're going to go in right now? Because if Tyreek's going to last out his contract and then go do whatever the fuck he's going to do as a career progression after football, and then Waddle's your guy and Waddle's been hurt, and then Achane's your guy and Achane's been historically hurt, then you got a really tough scene ahead of you as a Dolphins fan. And that's not even mentioning the main guy, which is Tua. So I do think this is a challenge. Do I think he's creative and innovative enough to pull that? Yeah, I do. But he needs the pieces in play, and that's been his kryptonite. He needs the players for him to get creative like that. Other than that, it just hasn't shown its success without that. So
yeah, and I think like you hear, the team takes on the identity of the coach, and this team just, man, to me, and not to say like you need fucking grit and everybody needs to be a hard-nosed team, this and that, but the Dolphins just lack a lot of those fundamental aspects, I find. And the way they've built this team, sure, the finesse is great and it shows. It's been slowed down this year, and you've actually been relying a little bit more on like the Jonnu Smiths, and he's been a great layer to add into that offense. But Tua is a check down master. It's why he has a high completion percentage. He's always checking it down to Achane. And that's kind of how the offense moves. That's great and all, but I just don't think this team is striking fear into anybody's eyes. And it's, to me, Mike McDaniels is a great offensive mind and coordinator, but from a head coaching standpoint, I don't think this guy's going to win any Super Bowls as a head coach in the league, unfortunately. But that's just my take. And I think, based on the Tua injury and the slow start, I think he might get one season just because of that. And then that's wraps. But they got to see what they can put out there next year. And if they can't get it done, then they got a lot to move on from and figure out what the direction of that team is. But then on the Houston side, quick touch, win once again. I don't think anyone's really talking about CJ Stroud too much this year, which is kind of weird. It's been a full year of nobody really even mentioning this guy. He's been pretty middle of the pack, but Houston still wins. Do you think Houston wins a game in the playoffs?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Houston, just the way that they've been playing.
Their defense has been playing really well, but they just don't. They aren't.
The offense has just lost a touch with. Well, they've had injuries too, right? Like between the O-line struggles with giving CJ the opportunity to do what he did last year. I think they've been schemed against based on last year's result. That coupled with Nico Collins and different situations with the injury bugs, like this team has not been. I want to say healthy enough to give you a full scope on what they are. That being said, on the flip side, I just think CJ's been a little pedestrian in his sophomore year. And I think
could be a sophomore slump.
I expected that. I think other people should have expected that. That's what happens in the NFL. And I think you have to go through those kind of growing pains in your second year. It's not natural to come in and throw 4,300 yards and then be like, I'm going to do it again, unless you're one of the all-time greats. And maybe he still becomes that over this time. And he's definitely proved me wrong kind of, character. He's like, I'm going to go do this. So I think his ambitions are great. It's going to come through, right? I think it's just a little slowdown just this year. I just don't see it with their matchups and what they got to go through. I just don't see it happening necessarily. Yeah. Who would be the first round matchup for them?
Well, they're gonna win their division because their division just isn't very good to begin with this year. So they'll probably end up in the 4 spot, and then they'll probably end up playing the best of the wild card teams. So you're looking at like the Baltimores, the Pittsburgh, whoever ends up in that first spot there.
Yeah.
That's most likely who you're going to be playing. So when I look at that matchup, I don't love it, especially if you're playing Baltimore again, first round. Not a matchup you want to see first round of the playoffs, that's for sure. But we'll see how that kind of plays out down the line. Now let's kind of move on to, we want to talk about Karen Rodgers, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, and Davante Adams. Adams goes for 198 and 2 tutties. Safe to say, if you're playing
he's back.
Davante Adams in fantasy this week, probably wasn't great. I myself was playing Davante Adams and Josh Allen in one of my leagues.
Good luck.
Did not fare so well. So huge day for them. They get a win. I mean, the Jets kind of needed that, but against a pitiful Jacksonville team,
this was our call. We said, "Hey, the Jets, they gotta win one, and the most likely win one."
It out there, though. We had to sweat it out.
Yeah, but I think that's what it is, right? Like this team, the Jaguars. If anyone's worse than the Jets, it's the Jaguars.
Yeah, that's very true. Two teams in the same sense. So I mean, hell of a showing from them. I think they're at the point where it's just like, fuck, let's make some memories. It's our last stretch here. We might not be playing together at all anymore. This could be it. Let's just go out having a good time. And that's kind of what you got from those guys. And then we bounce over. We got the Chiefs game. I think at the start, we had a couple bets we wanted to take in this game. I had the under, ended up pulling through on that. Had Nick Chubb over on the rushing attempts. Finished with 9. Nick Chubb ended up with the broken foot, which that's unfortunate for Nick Chubb.
That is. It's another
he's
thing.
probably one of the most likable players in the league, and what he's already kind of gone through, that sucks to see. So
yeah,
prayers up for Chubb, and hopefully he can make a recovery, and this isn't the last we're going to see of him. But then on the other side, the Chiefs,
yeah,
you got Mahomes with the high ankle sprain.
cool. Yeah.
Now, if we look at this, I think it's eerily reminiscent of the Super Bowl run a couple years ago when he had the high ankle sprain as well. And he was in that, I think it was the year they played the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and he was just wincing and he was sprawled out on the sideline there.
Mm-hmm.
But then he was in there making plays left, right, and center. So I don't know what the hell they inject in these guys, but at this point, is it borderline performance enhancers? Because last time this guy went out there with a high ankle sprain, he was putting on a show. So are we afraid here down the line with Mahomes?
Oh, I think that question is a stupid question. Like this guy.
We all want to be like underneath it all. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
It's like the like when the Raptors won against Golden State and fucking Durant goes down with the injury, and the fans got grilled for being like, "Hey, look at that." I don't know. Like it's like one of those situations where definitely fans, like you just said, are cheering subtly if that comes through. Is that the right thing? Is that the nice thing? No, it's not the nice thing. It's not the right thing either, right?
It's not.
We shouldn't be preying on other people's injuries. But the flip side is no, I don't think that this is going to affect Patrick Mahomes and his ability to play whatsoever. I think Patrick Mahomes has displayed that he's capable of doing magical, wonderful things in the playoffs, no matter what the case scenario is against him. So, no, I think it's just one of those things. They said it was week to week. He said day to day. He said it was precautionary.
So the report came out today, apparently as a full participant in practice. I know they got a stretch of games here, which is they're all short because we got this Christmas holiday mashup of games where teams are playing like multiple times, like 3 times in like a 10 to 12 day span. I think the Chiefs are one of those guys. And that's going to be tough for them. They play on the Saturday this week, I think it is. And these short weeks, we're going to see how he fares. But so far, it looks like he's going to be suiting up based on that report, but we'll see how that plays out. Chiefs just, obviously, I mean, I don't know how many times you want to talk about how, mediocre their offenses looked, but they pull the games out. Like, it is what it is. I'm beyond that talking point until they start to lose games. But I think for Josh Allen and the Bills here, they would like to see them drop a couple games so that they can get a little bit closer to that 1 seed in the AFC. Yep. But then we got some records here. We got Mike Evans, huge game. I think this guy's got to be the most underappreciated,
absolutely,
or undervalued in the history of the league. So with Mike Evans' game this past weekend, he passes Antonio Brown on the list for most receiving yards in the history of the NFL. He's 251 yards away from 1,000 again, which is pretty crazy. Considering a couple of weeks ago, speculation was he wasn't going to hit his 1,000-yard mark this year. And lo and behold, if you don't think Baker's forcing this guy the ball the rest of the way to get that, I will be taking the over props on Mike Evans. I will just say that.
Yeah, he is exactly what you said, underappreciated, undervalued too. Like, and just like if you want a steady Eddie guy, like I try to look at those guys in redraft leagues and fantasy football all the time. Like, who is your guy that is just consistent beyond belief? No volatility. I know what I'm gonna get. And if you put Mike Evans anywhere outside of that conversation as number 1, you're an idiot. Like this guy has been the number 1 receiver in so many years. And just like you hear the flashy names and kind of what you said and your argument about, Lamar and the Josh Allens and all this kind of shit. They're flashy, so they get the big lights and everything else. Well, then there's that other guy that's, just going along, doing his thing, and no one's fucking talking about him. And that's what I say about Kyron Williams in the RB slot, and that's what you can say about Mike Evans every fucking year. This guy just gets shit done every fucking year and is showing the records for it. So, no, what a player. A huge
first ballot Hall of Famer for sure.
Guaranteed.
But that's crazy. And we talk about the Bucs Chargers. Bucs just laid a beatdown on the Chargers. That was a surprise take for me. But when you look at the Chargers team, I think we know what they are. And they're struggling to have an offense that moves when they can't run the ball. You can see where their offense is built off of. For them, I think it's going to be prioritizing getting some weapons for Herbert in the offseason. We know McConkey's a great receiver. QJ, maybe he can be a stronger number 2 in that offense. But without that run game, which is clearly what they're built off of, they are struggling for sure.
Yeah.
And the Bucs, man, they look like they're going to be the ones that win the division if they keep playing like this.
The Bucs should. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like it was Atlanta needed that win, but the Bucs are definitely the favorite in that. And honestly, good on fucking them. Yeah. Like, and Baker what they've battled with too, like Mike Evans was out for an extended period. Baker's just been carrying shit as well. And then Godwin going out. Man, I still got Godwin in my other leagues on the fucking IR, just hoping and praying. It's not happening, but I just want him to win a chip with the boys, maybe. So, like, it is what it is. But if you look down at like how important he was to that team in the first 8-9 weeks, like massive. And now you're without that, and he's still getting it done. So, good on them. Like, I thought they were going to go into a spell of losses, and they really didn't.
They had their moment, but they rebounded, man, and that's the beauty of it. Like, the good teams are going to rebound from the adversity, and they've handled it very well. So, hats off to them, man. They're playing well. And then we want to look at – let's talk about a little bit about this Bengals game. We already talked about the poor officiating there. Mr. Will Levis benched. I don't know if you watched any of the highlights from that game, but my God, he is a special guy. I will say he's a special guy. I think that's a wrap, man. I don't know if this guy's going to be a starter anymore in this league. I do think Tennessee moves on and goes and looks for a quarterback in the offseason. I think that project is over and done with. He hasn't seemed to progress. He hasn't learned anything.
Depending on Kirk Cousins' current career, whether or not he flops over to Tennessee and just provides that stability. Again, same situation. Yeah.
Well, I mean, fuck, we can get into the Kirk Cousins talking a bit there, and you'll see what I have to say on that. But
no, he's definitely, he came out hot. He came out hot and heavy. Fucking Atlanta loved him. Swag and surf. Fuck, these guys are going.
And then all of a sudden it is what it is. But
a little bit more surf, less swag. Just not happening right
now. But in the Bengals game here, with the frustration on Callahan's face watching this guy, it's a pretty impressive thing to make the Bengals defense look that good. So I think from that standpoint alone, just not a good showing. Tennessee, pretty brutal team. And I think you can see the topic of controversy here is with Joe Burrow on the sideline, frustrated with Zach Taylor. And I think you can read the lips here. And if you saw the video, there's a ton of people speculating about what he said, but it's pretty clear. And he's saying, like, that's fucking embarrassing. He's like, no, fuck that. We suck today. And then there was a part at the end that people are trying to decipher that was saying, we should have beat these guys by fucking 80. Or the other part was, we're still going to be 6-8. Like, he was frustrated. And he did the same thing in the Raiders game when they laid out the Raiders. He's just not happy. He's frustrated. Man, and it's a tough watch, and I don't know how you have faith in a guy like Zach Taylor. Like we talked about the Mike McDaniels and stuff like that. When I look at Zach Taylor, and this is the arguments that I have too when I'm talking, we're talking about the best players in the league, right? We're talking about the Lamars, the Josh Allens, this and that. They all have great head coaches, right? Nobody in their right mind says Zach Taylor is a good coach because he just isn't a good coach. Even when they went on their Super Bowl run, he wasn't even in the running for coach of the year, which to take a Bengals team to the Super Bowl, that's pretty damn impressive, right? But I think that speaks volumes to where the talent is coming from and who's getting them to that point. And that's just me speaking on Zach Taylor as a head coach, not a person, because I think what he's done for the organization has been great. But I do think we need a fresh face on our team for sure, because you can see the frustration with the team, and Joe Burrow's not happy about it. These guys are putting up points, and it is what it is. But that was pretty funny to see, man, because you haven't really seen Joe Burrow this animated, and this is definitely going to be the year to do it to him for sure. But funny enough, now segueing into the Bills here, Mr. Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills. What a game. Another barn burner. Josh Allen, the first one to put up back-to-back point totals like that in fantasy. I think he's the first one to ever put up 40-plus 2 weeks back-to-back. So, and I was getting roasted in the comments on my comments about Burrow being better than Josh Allen. Now, I will say, I encourage all the smoke here. I will stand on that pedestal and still say Joe Burrow in a vacuum is a better quarterback than Josh Allen. Josh Allen is electric. Their team is succeeding, and I'll give him that. He is clearly the MVP, and I'm assuming he will win it.
See, my biggest thing for this is the defense for the Bills has been incredibly pedestrian over the last 2 games.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And
awful.
What's the difference?
Well, I think
this is where I just
two
hammer
similar
this
teams
home.
There.
Right,
you had
but
the
this
Bills
is where
were...
you hammer this point home for Josh Allen as the MVP. Is he was the absolute difference maker of offense and creating offense and making that. You've talked about it. We've talked about it. Defense, offense, what wins games, right? You're very high on the offense wins games. Well, creating that level of offense, that much offense to be able to build and bridge on the fucking terrible defense that the Bills have been playing over the last 2 games is, to me, enough evidence to solidify that he's the MVP of this season. Like, it's hard to justify otherwise not. For everyone that's in different comment sections and whatever the case they're going on about, that this guy is comparatively worse than Lamar or comparatively worse than a Joe Burrow, whatever the case it is, well, difference maker here is the exact same situation that Lamar had last year, which is, what are the stats comparatively to the team record, to the team, to him, his impact on that team? What is he having as influence to why and where they are in that place in the standings, in the league, right? And I think Josh Allen has had, comparatively against the rest of all these other candidates, more impact offensively to his team's success than any of those other guys. And that's just the difference maker for the season.
To win the MVP, it takes a lot of things, and you got to have a good team, and you got to have everything kind of go your way down the stretch here, and you got to show it. But like statistically, last year Lamar won it, and his stats, I think he's far exceeded his statistical totals this season. And he did that in an earlier point. Like, I think he's going to crush his metrics from last year, right?
Yeah.
But you look at the team, and some would say that Ravens team last year was one of the best teams, which was why it was so surprising to see them lose, because we all figured they would be in the finals for sure. And that's where it's like, okay, when we're arguing these things, you got to take all these things into account, because even statistically right now, Josh Allen isn't even, he's the 3rd best quarterback on paper. Joe Burrow has more passing yards and touchdown totals, and that's including Josh Allen's rushing stats. So when we're arguing this stuff and people want to put stats into play, it's like, okay, but where's the line then, right? Because if you're going to use stats as your argument, where are we drawing the line? And then if we're going to use the team as the argument, where are we drawing the line? And that's the frustrating point when I get to it, because in a vacuum, the quarterback position, you talked about talent last time, can be played in a multitude of different ways, right? And you could see that between the offenses. But you can see Josh Allen's dual threat ability. I also think him coupled with his new offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, this year has done wonders, and you've seen it. And the running game as well. They're just working as a full unit, and they're really elevating Josh Allen to be who he can be this year, and you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, he has to be, right?
Yeah.
Like we've said this. Like someone said it, and I commented on it, so I laughed. It was like they have two beasts at tight end, and they got James Cook and Davis, and I was like, bro, did you just read your fucking sentence that you just said? Like, you're saying you have two beasts at tight end. Yeah, Dalton Kincaid was supposed to be a beast. Right now, he's the tight end 23 in all leagues. And in fucking Dawson Knox's case, he's, I think, tight end 44 or something. Mm-hmm. And then in James Cook's scenario, yeah, James Cook has had a great season, but I think he's still RB 13. Like, it's not like he's carrying the fucking weight here. Like, there is a clear difference maker on who the fucking, and then Khalil Shakir right now is like wide receiver 23. Like, these guys are not the difference maker on the season. The dispersion of all this offense and what's happening is fucking Josh Allen making all this happen in every other avenue. So that's where I look at it. Like, you look at all these teams and you look at their difference maker on this crew. Derrick Henry is the counterpart to Lamar. That's what makes them so special in the backfield. And then fucking Saquon is the same situation over in Philly. Yeah. Like, he's making plays happen. He is clearly a difference maker, but they have their weapons as well that are making this work. So it's like, to say that comparatively those couple teams and then compare that to Buffalo, you're in a completely different situation. And that's where I look at Josh Allen and go, yeah, this guy's a fucking god right now, just carrying everything, because comparatively the weapons and assets that he has to utilize aren't necessarily the same talent level. So we're talking about talent to Josh, sure. You talk about talent to the rest of the field, that's a big stark difference, play to play and team to team. So,
well, this is the key to your argument is the players that they have around him. Now, you got to remember, and this is why I hate player versus player arguments in a sport where it's so team based. And I think it's the top sport where you're just speculating player to player, when really it's the system that they've created and how they utilize the players there. And I think what they've just done is they didn't force Josh Allen to be this pocket passer or anything like that. They're just letting the guy play ball. And when he does that, and they have enough talent, it's not to say there isn't any, because Khalil Shakir was a hell of a prospect coming out of college too. He's a good player, clearly, in the league. James Cook is a hell of a running back. They have a great offensive line. They have weapons, and that's all they need to function at the level that they're functioning at right now.
Yeah.
So that's why it's just this is great. It's all coming together for them. And we're going to see how this fares down the stretch. I'm excited to see them in the playoffs now, and just see what this team is capable of. But to go out and to beat the two best teams in the league, in the Chiefs and then Detroit, I don't think you can take anything away from these guys. They're playing on another level.
Yeah, there is a side to that, which was Detroit is incredibly hurt on defense right now.
And you could see that.
And that is a clear point. Their offense still picked apart Buffalo's defense. So give that now the side to where maybe Detroit gets a little healthier here and they meet again. I don't know. Yeah, that's a question to be asked. Play Action Nation, what do you think? Do you think if it goes Bills-Lions and Lions get healthy, what's going to be the outcome? Let's see.
The problem is, are they even going to get healthy? Because they just lost Aleem McNeil and they lost David Montgomery for the year.
Yeah.
So talk about a team.
They might be getting worse.
If this is the roster they're going to have rolling into the playoffs, it's going to be tough for them to fight down the stretch here, because they're getting decimated, and it sucks to see.
Did you see the David Montgomery's line for the season prop was 755.5, and he's at 755? I was like, that's incredible. How do you call that shit? Insane. How do you call that?
That is
what
insane.
The fuck is that? That's incredible.
That was incredible. I saw that stat, but that sucks to see, man. It sucks to see, because you just want to see everybody on the field playing. You don't want to see teams get beat up like that. Like, they were going to be a good show to watch, but it sucks, man. And there you go. Josh Allen solidifying that MVP showing, and he's got Patriots twice down this stretch. And I think it's pretty much a wrap for his campaign. They keep playing this out. He did get a little injury scare at the end of that game.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see how that fares.
Yep.
Hopefully he takes it a little. Josh, take it a little easy for me because I got to play you in the playoffs this week.
Yeah, no, don't stop,
So,
but also
down,
be
buddy.
healthy because I need you in the semis.
Exactly. So we'll see. But that was interesting. Now we can kind of bounce off that game. I want to get into the Colts and the Broncos here, and I want to talk about that Jonathan Taylor touchdown. And I don't know what it is with these guys dropping the ball at the goal line, but you had Jordan Battle in the Bengals game. He had the fumble return where he dropped it at the goal line as well. Guys, just get into the end zone, do whatever the fuck you want to do with the ball. And we were talking about that because that is a huge swing in that Colts game. I was cheering for the Colts. We needed them. We need the Broncos to lose for the Bengals playoff hopes. And to see that the way that game swung was just crazy. But another thing too is when you look at that call and you talk about, is there enough to overturn something? Like, how do you overturn that with how close that was to the goal line?
To me, don't put yourself in that situation. Like, I
agree with that.
I understand.
I agree with that.
It's like, yeah, we could talk about the goal line and how it's hard to call exactly where he released the ball and all this kind of shit. To me, I thought he honestly wasn't gripping the ball and it just slipped out of his hand. That's how just weird it looked. That being said, like, I was talking with a couple buddies, like, just hold on to the fucking ball. Make it a team etiquette situation where it's like, yo, listen, spike the ball in the middle of the fucking end zone or in the back of the end zone. I don't care where you do it. Just don't let this happen. It's a pitiful, pitiful thing. Like, it's just a joke. So, like, and for that to happen, Jonathan Taylor's had enough of these fucking touchdowns in his career. He knows what the fuck's up. So it's like, that's the crazy part to me. It's like, just hold this shit, man. Like, you know it. You know the impact on that and on the season. Like, what the fuck are you doing? So it's like, yeah, I think it's the most absurd thing ever for this to be a reoccurring effect. It's either arrogance, stupidity, or just an absolute, I don't even know what the last thing to say is because it's just so fucking dumb. So hold the ball, take the ball, score the ball, do whatever the fuck with you after that. Like, plan your celebration in accordance to that. If you don't have the ball, you can't do your celebration. Like, do something like that. Fuck. Like, it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. It's
truly ridiculous. And that reaction is warranted. But that game was ridiculous too. They were just exchanging pick sixes. Colts tried to pull out that trick play. Dude, that was fucking brutal. You had Adonai Mitchell there who caught it, was going to throw it back. I think I counted 5 seconds where he had to literally re-grip the ball properly there, and you just knew it was getting thrown back. I was like, man.
Yeah, clear.
The execution on that was brutal. Fucking Colts flubbing that one away, but Broncos, another win for them, man. 9-5. Yeah, Bengals are going to need the Broncos to lose out the rest of the way here if they want any hopes at the playoff, which sucks to see. But what I want is, I just want a meaningful game between the Broncos and the Bengals in 2 weeks. Just give me meaningful football, and I'll be happy. I don't even care if we lose. Just give me meaningful football, and I'll be good to go.
Yeah. Do you think, just one last thing, obviously, Zach Taylor, do you think he survives the season?
That's a tough question, and I've been pondering this. I mean, for the last
you just talked Mike
like
McDaniel.
Yes.
Right?
Zach Taylor, I say he shouldn't. But the problem is I have this thing where you don't fire the coach unless you have a plan in place. So when we talked about the hypotheticals and the Bill Belichick stuff, Bill would have been the guy I would have been all in for. I need a guy that's been there, done that. That's what I want. You know what Joe Burrow is. You need a guy that can go do that. So now when I look at the pool of head coaches, like, do I want to fire a Zach Taylor for a Ben Johnson out of Detroit who's never coached before in his life? Not necessarily, no. Who else is out there, right? We got guys like, I think, Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's a guy you might want. Like, he's complete opposite of Zach Taylor. That I would love a little bit more of that rah, but
Yep.
at the same time, he's a defensive-minded coach. Is that the type of guy we want in the building? I mean, potentially, yeah. Worked out pretty good in Tom Brady's career where Bill was the defensive-minded coach. He handled the offense. Match made in heaven, right? Or do we go for someone like Brian Flores? You see what he did in Minnesota. Guys like that, right? But
probably be better to go with a defensive-minded coach.
At this point, yeah, because you can trust that Joe Burrow is going to get it done, right? He knows how to play ball. And you get a guy that can go clean up and actually coach a team properly and have them organized and understand
Robert
what
Saleh?
to do. No chance. I don't even like him as a coach prospect. No, thank you. But I think when you look at it, like the guys I just outlined are really the main guys there.
Yeah.
And unless you have a plan to go and get these guys, then you don't fire Zach Taylor.
Fair.
Like I don't think for the sake of it you do that. I think like you need to have that option, but you got to sit down and you got to weigh because your roster development, everything from organization down is really the problem. It's not just Zach. It's like, okay, look at the players that were available to him. Are you guys all on the same page here? Like I think it's an organizational issue and our GM too, like smallest scouting department in the league. These guys are just not putting more resources into this stuff, and it's clearly showing now. So there's a lot more problems than just the head coach, but I think Zach Taylor should be on his way out. Absolutely.
Fair.
All right. Now, can we talk about that Packers-Seahawks game here for a second? Because Seahawks got smacked. They were showing pretty good. I really like the way the Packers are playing football. I think they're playing really good football. You took them this week. I don't know if that's an indictment on Seattle as a team. The Packers, to me, when I look at them, obviously the offense runs through Josh Jacobs, but the team is clearly well coached. They have a well-rounded team. And they're right up there with the rest of that division, winning games continually. I think they're going to be a tough play in the playoffs, man. Packers look
They're
like
absolutely going to be a tough play. They're always a tough play, no matter what you look at. I mean, you look at Jordan Love, and the addition of Josh Jacobs has been massive. If not for a guy to replace Aaron Jones, it's fucking Josh Jacobs. Like, holy shit,
match made in heaven.
Perfect play, younger guy. It's exactly the same style. Like it is what it's exactly. You just got the same guy in a younger body. Like it's crazy. But yeah, the team has always been well coached. They're just such a great organization overall. Yeah. Like this team never flops on decisions, scouting, anything. They find guys, wide receivers that you just never expect to come to fruition in any which way. And look at this crew, and you're probably going to look at like a Jaden Reed and these guys and be like, fuck, like this guy's a top 15 wide receiver in the league right now, stats wise. Like that's crazy to say. It's wild, but it is what it is. They just find diamonds, man. Yeah. That's what they do.
They do. They got these guys, and I think they showed a stat too when I was watching the game. Christian Watson and his yards per catch right now are incredible. Fuck. Like the plays, and he made a stellar catch in that game too. Yeah. But fuck, man, what's it like being a Packers fan, having 3 generations of quarterbacks that have just been solid? That's pretty crazy.
That's when you say to yourself, I have faith in my fucking team.
Yeah,
like,
no shit.
You can always have faith in your organization to come through.
Steady Eddies over there in Packerland. I will, man. Cheese. I do think fucking cheese. I do think the jury is still out on, like, Jordan Love's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I want to see what he can do in these playoff games and how he handles it. For me, I look at it. He's won in Dallas, and that was more of like a just hand the ball off to Aaron Jones, and it was 10 yards a pop. But
he's going to do the same with Josh Jacobs.
This is the thing. Like we talk about when we're talking about players versus teams, where is the success coming from? When I look at the Packers, I'm not sitting here saying it's Jordan Love. When I look at the Bills, I am sitting here saying it is Josh Allen a lot more.
This is your perspective,
right? Yeah. So when we look at these perspectives and the Packers, I think they're just collectively a very good team overall and everywhere. And they have a quarterback to run the system. Do I think Jordan Love is a top 5 quarterback? Absolutely not. Is he a top 7 quarterback? Might not even be that. But he is a good quarterback in this league on a team where he runs the system perfectly. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Are you calling Jordan Love a system quarterback?
I'm calling him a system quarterback. Absolutely. We'll see how that plays out
Let's see how that goes around.
In the playoffs here. And I mean, the beauty of it is like we got years to go, and that's the arguments. Like these guys we're going to see, they got a whole career ahead of them, and so far so good for Packers. But Seahawks lost Geno. Seahawks got blatant holes. Safe to say, I don't want to see Sam Howell anymore. Rocket interceptions going the other way. No, thank you. Geno, buddy, get back out there for all JSN holders. We need that guy in the playoffs.
I do need him.
JSN in the playoffs. And then last
I got Metcalf and I got JSN in my other league. So
there you go. You're going to need Geno down the stretch here. Now we can finally kind of get into these last games that came out on the Monday night. I want to talk Kirk Cousins so bad because that was brutal. I don't think there's too much to talk about in that Bears-Vikings game. Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
The Bears, they're going to have a big offseason ahead of them for sure. By no means am I putting the blame on Caleb Williams or any of those guys, but there's going to need to be a big review of what goes on there. And the Vikings, once again, Sam Darnold, man, this guy is going to be one of the most desired players in free agency based off the way he's playing. And this is kind of a similar thing with Jordan Love, man. Like Sam Darnold's a good quarterback, but he's playing the system very well. And he's just getting it done. And the Vikings are a very good team. That NFC North, they just have very good teams, period, plain and simple. But let's talk Kirk Cousins, because is Kirk Cousins done is the question. This guy just signed a 4-year deal. What was it? Cousins signed, I think he just popped it up here, Adam Schefter. Don't got the entire total here. $180 million contract in the offseason. $90 million fully guaranteed Kirk Cousins way. So what are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
Did you watch the game last night? He was an absolute statue in the pocket. Could not move. Could not set his feet on some of the throws. And it did not look like Raheem Morris trusted him at all to throw the ball.
That was clear. And you could see the frustration especially at the end of the game. It's like, how are you even here? Right? Like, how are you even in this position? And again, we've talked week over week over week of why they're in this position. And it's because Buddy can't fucking throw a touchdown to save his life at this point.
And it's not like he doesn't have the talent around him either.
No, he's definitely got the fucking talent. But yeah, no, it's just like, what did he have? He finally threw a touchdown. Yeah, that was the difference. Like fucking week after week after week, every single week, 4 interceptions, 3 interceptions, 1, 2, what have you. He throws another pick, throws a touchdown, whatever the case. 112 fucking yards. Like,
yeah, that's sad.
That's sad, man. He just, I don't know if it's the yips, if it's the head, it's the play calls, whatever the hell it is. But there's no confidence in the quarterback situation right now, like you said. So
it's not even that. It's against the Raiders.
And Bijan, another 20-plus carry attempt, 100-yard game.
Yes.
Like, yes, they're leaning so heavily into that, but they're having to do that. And it's the results are, you're scraping by a fucking 6-point game, right? Like it's not, they're not winning games handedly.
No.
So,
and it's ugly. And we talked about that line. We're like, fucking 4 points. You kidding me? Like Atlanta's, they're a way better team than the Raiders. And then you see
on paper. Yeah,
absolutely. It's just been downhill for Kirk Cousins. And let's go back to that topic of conversation in the offseason here. Atlanta taking Michael Penix with the pick there and passing on an edge rusher. And yeah, Atlanta needs pass rush help, but now look how smart they look with grabbing Michael Penix here now. And this was the thought process. Like, you got a guy that's coming off Achilles surgery at his age. You're going to pay him. You're going to take the shot. But what's the problem in getting a little security blanket here in Michael Penix? Especially when you know the future upcoming quarterback class is not great. Like,
and you run into the same conversation that we had, which is you sit your guy for a year, and how that's transitioned into a successful quarterback. So if you're going to talk about a system quarterback and all this other shit, maybe you just built one. So let's see how this goes.
I would like to see some
the starter for sure.
Some juice on the Atlanta side of things with Michael Penix here. Let's see what he can do. That would be exciting to watch, man. If he comes in here and he does something, man, this quarterback class might be a good one for sure. Not that it already isn't, but to add another quarterback into the mix that plays well, that'd be cool to see. But Atlanta definitely needs some juice because they could not get it going in that game. But Raiders, I think they've packed it in, man. They're ready to draft a quarterback at either the 1 or the 2 spot here. And that's kind of what it is. And that's what it looks like, man, on their sideline and how that team is playing. So kind of a wrap with those guys. But it's been a pretty good week. This season is flying by, man. I keep saying that every single time. We got week 16 coming up next week. You got anything else you want to touch on the show today, Chappie?
No, nothing major. It was a good week. We're going to get some plays out soon. We're going to start squeaking out some basketball plays. Got the system rolling here again. And we're going to kind of connect on that. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. But
Yes. All right, beautiful. Well, we want to thank you guys for tuning in once again. We appreciate your support. If you guys could hit the bell, like, subscribe to content, please. It truly does help us out.
Absolutely.
Trying to get more stuff out to you guys. But we will see you guys on the preview. Hopefully we'll have that out to you Saturday for the Sunday slate of games. Actually, Saturday morning would be great because we got the games on the Saturday as well. So hopefully we'll get that out soon. Appreciate it, guys. Take care. Chappie Bengals out.